Well, another gorgeous day today in Toronto with Fertility Empowerment Show with a beautiful lady, Helen Zee, with us from Australia. So we're gonna talk about fertility and a lot of exciting news we have with you. So be with us till the end. All right. Um, Helen, welcome to my show.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be invited on, Pantia. I am very, very excited to be sharing with you today.
Whenever we talk about fertility, I'm so excited because I had a long journey until having my baby, and I can't wait to share great news with others that is not impossible, and with little tweaks, they can actually have their own child. We're going to talk about fertility through cyclical fitness. And first of all, I love to hear your story. And how did you become a fertility practitioner? Why did you choose this path?
Mm. Thanks so much. In one way, the path chose me. I'll take it back briefly that even when I was a very young child, I already had an older sister, and my mum was pregnant, and I was not even 3 at the time. I was 2, and I remember sitting down on my knees, praying with her every night that this baby in her belly was going to be a boy, and I suppose I identified with my mum at that time of the yearning that she had of being pregnant and wanting to have that little boy. And I could also feel like I could see and sense a lot of things as that didn't make sense. And growing up, I could see women without that were pregnant before they announced they were pregnant. So that was even going up through my younger years. And I didn't fully pursue a career in fertility until later on in life. I was a pharmaceutical manager working, uh, um, launching products of pharmaceuticals in our world markets. And I was also a fitness professional, and I had a fitness studio in the local area where I would also work as a manager. And a Melbourne IVF clinic, Monash IVF, phoned me and said, am I willing to do a pilot program for being a lifestyle trainer for the patients at IVF? And so I said yes. And the scientist in me meant that through the holistic health and also taking a science-based approach, we were able to create from a blank canvas, be able to create a pilot program and a research program to be able to use lifestyle factors, monitor the changes in women's bodies, as well as the success that lifestyle factors have on the fertility success. And so that's basically how I got into it. And I haven't looked back ever since. So that's my humble little story. I'm very, very honored.
So tell me about cyclical fitness. What is it, and what's the purpose of it?
Yeah. So I say when we are trying to get pregnant and we can't, we treat you like you are an amateur athlete going for the biggest rite of passage of your life. And so we train you not like an athlete, but we train you with the physical, the fitness principles that we would, working with the external factors, working with your body type to be able to work with your hormones and your cycles, meaning your 4 phases of your menstrual cycle, because we've got our hormones that differ and change from the follicular phase to the luteal phase to the menstruation phase and the ovulation phase. And so if we're able to tell women the best way to exercise and also knowing where their hormones are at, we certainly don't want a woman who has got say PCOS, or has got a lot of testosterone in the body, to start doing really, really heavy powerlifting weights. That's only going to exacerbate their condition and situation. So we use and layer, as I said, different types of fitness activities within the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle to help optimize the body for success. And
So
I can talk into the type of exercises that are best
exactly.
fit. Yeah, yeah.
So what are the steps? Are you doing the nutrition as well, or that's only exercise part?
Can you repeat that first part?
I said, what's your process? Do you also do the nutrition beside what you recommend as exercise, or
Yeah,
what's exactly the process?
yeah. It's all of it. So you are treated, a person that I work with, and including a partner, if they have a partner, I work with both of you. So I look at your lifestyle from nutrition and nutritional timing, and again, using nutrition to overlay through the different phases of the menstrual cycle is really, really important, which we can go into today. It's paramount, actually. I also have a look at your sleep-wake cycle to see whether you are getting enough sleep, whether you are going to bed in enough time, and we can downplay the importance of the sleep-wake cycle, which is the cortisol together with the progesterone has a relationship in the body with the main hormone that both of these progesterone and cortisol need to be able to keep your hormones healthy. So I look at that as well. And as a relationship practitioner and an intimacy practitioner, I also look at your intimacy and also help you with your intimacy and sexuality as well. So if that needs to be addressed, we definitely address that as well.
I think you refer to a great point because in most cases, people always thinking it's only women to have to be mm, responsible for fertility. But as you said, women and men should work together, and is not in many cases in my own clients I see that for years women always take responsibility and they didn't even address male fertility issues. So what kind of exercises exactly do you recommend to both parties?
Yeah, beautiful. So for women, excuse me, for women in the follicular phase, so just to address that for anyone listening here that's not used to the terminology, the follicular phase is the phase from after we stop bleeding to when we reach ovulation. So there's the building phase. We've got a lot more estrogen in the body. We've got follicle stimulating hormones that are helping the ovum mature. So in those particular cases, because we've got the big building blocks and there's more energy available to the body, we can do more of the higher intensity exercises. So if you did like going to the gym, that's where we'll encourage you to use more weights. Or if you really enjoy a higher pace class, that's the time to do those classes. Unless you've got a hormonal imbalance, where we need to address that slightly differently. So I won't go into that right now unless we've got extra time. In the ovulation phase, it's pretty much the same with the follicular phase, but that's the time where you get to feel a bit more sexy, you get to feel a bit more amorous. So it's really nice to move your body. I suggest putting on music and dancing. That's a form of exercise as well. So just feel your body moving, work with that stage as well of like getting the energy moving through your body. It is so, so important. Like puckering up your lips starts to activate the right hormones that actually work with your body as well. So kissing is really important. It all plays a role that we may not realize. In the luteal phase, there's two ways that we go with this. So let's address if we're not pregnant.
So
So,
please describe for people who don't know
yeah.
what is luteal.
I
Luteal.
will, yeah. So the luteal phase is between ovulation and before we menstruate. And in that phase, if we're trying to conceive, we're hoping that we're going to get pregnant. So when I work with you, and you're trying to get pregnant and you've had ejaculatory sex, I work with you like you were pregnant. So I don't assume that we need to wait until 2 weeks after when you don't get your period. We could have done some damage in that time. So we've got to be really, really careful, especially when a woman is known to miscarry. The implantation phase that's what needs to be managed. And so in this particular phase, we don't do as much high intensity activity. So we certainly do not introduce anything new that a person is not conditioned to. That's also really important. Like we don't want to go horse riding all of a sudden when we're trying to get pregnant if we're not used to it. I'll give you that as an example. So the exercises is more higher repetitions, but lower weights. And so some of those classes might be a circuit-based training, it might be Tabata, and you choose to have lower weights instead of the heavier weights. If you enjoy your running, do your running, your jogging, your swimming. So we just don't want to push to that point where, when you exercise and you really feel like you've got a higher level of your being that's coming through, we want to try to avoid that phase. Now, we also,
Next
yeah,
phase.
Yeah, the next phase is the menstruation phase. Now, near the end of the luteal phase, many women can feel like they are tired. So take those days off. Really listen to your body. This is about your higher intuition. So, and in maybe the first 2 days of your menstrual phase, just take some deep rest, just as we would called periodized training for an athlete. We schedule rest breaks. So it's the same thing through our menstrual phase. We've got to schedule rest breaks so we're able to be fresher for the next round of that cycle. So that covers women briefly. For men, it has been proven that when men do resistance training, the testosterone is increased, as well as sperm health, mobility, motility, morphology, that is increased for about 90 minutes post-exercise, and the effects can last for 24 hours. So when I do the timing, I get men to exercise, around the ovulation phase of their partner, and also interlace with that sexual intimacy to get some beautiful, beautiful results. So that's how I would be
Oh,
working with
that's
it.
the first time after many, many episodes we had this in more detail. Like we
Yeah.
never talk about exercise, how men should exercise, when should exercise, what type of exercise. I love this topic. Thank you
Yeah.
for bring it up. So another question: women who have child, let's say that they are trying for the second or third child, I always wonder because they don't have any other help, let's say, so they have to carry their own child. How they can have another child, but so many of them are worrying if carrying the child may interrupt the pregnancy, or what do you say? Like how can
Mm.
we handle it?
Yeah, I would say let's just have a look around the world. Women are designed to be multiple mothers, and we also see around the world how many women have had multiple pregnancies and be able to hold children on either side of the hip or on the back or on the front. We've also got swaddle. We can swaddle a baby. We've got carriers now. And as long as a woman is also on the left hip, on the right hip, gets down on her knees for her toddler. I've got 2 children. They're adults now. They're 3 years apart. So I certainly just had to change some of the things that I was doing. So even before the baby came, when I was pregnant, I would get down on my knees and say to my son, I'm going to cuddle you from here. So he still feel like he's being cuddled. So there were other ways that I was training my child so that he didn't feel, as soon as his sister came along, that things changed straight away. So there is that conditioning. It's like a training phase. Everything is a training phase. We're just using, it's the same
Yeah.
terminology, and we're just using it in different ways. So I would say not to over worry, unless, look, I am working with a client at the moment who's got an incompetent cervix. And by that, I mean that the cervix won't be able to hold a pregnancy. And so she's needed to have surgery to stitch up her cervix. So in that particular case, she's not even allowed to hold the shopping. So that is different again. But if you don't have any known conditions, just feel into the poweress of a woman that you are, and be sensible, and trust yourself.
Beautiful.
Mm.
I'm asking because unfortunately my medical doctor gave me wrong information, and he told me, "Oh, you can do swimming, you can do," because I was a swimmer, I used to do a regular swimming, but after my regular swimming, one of them I just miscarried. I miscarried two. So I realized that, oh, I have to take it easy and then have less exercise, not stop it, but just less exercise. So that's why I'm always asking, and I'm worried for my clients as well, because they always ask, what can we do for the second child? Some of them think that they cannot have the second child because it may they may not carry their child, like they cannot do their duties. And then there are lots of training around that we can actually give them to bring awareness. Yeah. So
Pantia,
what? Yeah.
I'll just say on that as well, and even with the swimming. So one thing that I recommend for my clients, especially if they're on IVF, is that we don't do twisting and turning. So if you are on IVF and we know the woman that is on the journey of IVF gets a lot of stimulating hormones. And so the ovary sometimes can be 3 or 5 times bigger as a tiny little organ than what it's supposed to be. And so we never, and I've got all these exercise guides for women to help them through, that we don't have like a weight plate and twist from side to side. And we say that if you go swimming, you do not do the tumbles. You don't do the tumbles to turn and push
Wow.
off, right?
Wow.
Because what happens if you're on stimulating hormones and you do the twisting, you can very easily go through what we call ovarian torsion. And what that is, it's like a twisting of the ovaries. And so that is very, very painful and sometimes needs medical intervention. So we've got to be sensible. So we've got to ask those questions. Are you on IVF? Know that also your practitioner needs to know. Well, sure, they won't have a medical background, and I'm fortunate enough that I've got a science-based background. I know the human body quite well. I've also worked with IVF for a certain period of time, so I've managed to merge and fuse beautifully parts of our life and our human capacity to be able to see a person holistically and give them this sensible information. Whereas that's not written in the literature. We don't know about this. And there's a lot of missed opportunities when people are trying to conceive and they can't, all we need to do, and I'm using manipulation as a word in a positive sense, we need to manipulate the body's factors to be able to actually draw in that sacred conception, keep that going for that period of time until a beautiful, healthy pregnancy and birth has evolved. And that's what it comes down to.
Helen, let's get back to IVF, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference in case of exercising when women go through IVF? What do you recommend rather than just go to the natural path?
Yeah. Okay. Um, so if you've got a steady, if you've already been exercising, then what we need to do, I see the people in IVF, like your clinicians and your practitioners, they're not nutritionists, which is why they don't give you dietary recommendations. And they're also not exercise professionals, just like we're not. We're not taught that at school, they're not taught that at university. So what we do is be able to arm you with the right information. So I've got an exercise guide and also a series of questions to take to your fitness professional, and they should be able to answer it. If they can't answer it, then I'm going to suggest that you shop around. I mean, I work online now as well for that reason. I don't just have to service people in Melbourne. Thank goodness for this computer. I can actually service people internationally as well. So if your fitness professional can't say to you, oh, I don't know what exercises you need to do, you'll be right. As long as you were doing deadlifts before you become pregnant, you should be able to continue doing it, I would be saying that's the wrong information. If they don't know what you should and shouldn't be doing if you are on IVF, I'd be saying that you need to educate yourself. And when you're in class and you're in a fitness class with 20 other people, you modify what you're doing. And this is what I give in the guide. So things like, and we've got to, my little disclaimer here is that this is just general information, please. This is general information. So if a woman is on IVF, and when I worked in the IVF clinic, I would basically do a circuit-based training. So we did not do heavy weights because we weren't in a studio. We were actually in the clinic, and I would be using hand weights and boxing, some skipping, some jumping. We would still be getting a workout, right? But that's what we did then. Now, you can do your weights as long as you're not going to over push something that is extraordinary. Before, when you're on your stimulating hormones, I recommend that you do not do anything, no inversions. So even if you're doing yoga, I would be suggesting that you modify some of your exercises in yoga. You don't do weighted twists and turns. I've got that in a guide. And you definitely don't do weight plate twists like we talked about earlier. Then we've got the 2-week wait period. Now, that's agonizing for many, many women, and they have invested a lot of money. So what we find is there's a lot of fertility professionals that say don't do anything. And that's not quite right unless there is a medical reason why they should not do anything. Being on IVF is not just a reason not to do anything for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or what have you. You can just do lesser of your activity, but please still keep moving. I mean, you're still walking, right? You got to walk to the car, you got to walk to the shops. You can go out and do your activities, but we are being very, very sensible in that time. For the listeners here today, I also do have a 2-week wait yoga video that I have produced just to be able to tie my clients over, that I'm happy to share with you as well.
Wow. Is it
In
in this website, helenzee.com?
it would be on Synergy Fertility Health Studio.
Oh, you didn't.
But
Okay,
that's okay. I will put it down on the bottom. I'll actually give you a link to the guide.
I see. Okay,
Um,
I can add it in the comment.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
I'll give you a link to the guide to get the exercise guide, and it'll all have that in there for our listeners. Yeah.
So, Helen, what do you have on your website? We have almost 5 minutes to go, so I
Mhm.
really want to um, use this time
Sure.
together.
Mhm.
What do you exactly have there? Do you have any classes, any freebies, other freebies that can help my audience?
Yeah, I do. I've got the exercise for fertility guide. I've also got a food for fertility guide, which tells women the best food to eat through the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. Now, I give food guides because there's so many different cuisines around the world that I want to inspire women to know what's the vitamin E, what are magnesium-rich foods, what are fiber-rich foods. It's not good enough for me to say have kiwi fruit, have avocado, if that's not going to be in season. So we really want to be able to educate women to be able to say, these are the food groups. I'm going to also go and do some research for myself. When you are a part of my community, I also do some free classes, so you'd be able to access those. So by being a part of my email list, I'll say, we're jumping online. This is the schedule for this week. And I also have courses like a 6-week blueprint course where you work through the lifestyle factors with a lot more detail. There is also opportunity to work one-on-one with me. And there is also a fertility fitness studio where you can get to do access yoga, meditation specifically for fertility. In other words, I speak to the body, I speak to the soul, I speak to the spirit baby that wants to come through. So it is niched in what I do. And
Your book,
also relationship coaching in that as well.
and you have a book, right? I
I
was so
do
excited to
I
see
do
it.
have a
Yeah.
book. Yeah, my book is called Consciously Conceive Your Baby, The Inner Secrets to Boost Your Fertility and Getting Pregnant. And it's got a lot of what I've done in the 18 years of being in this profession. I've got that in the book. So it's all about physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional preparation. Then I've got the relationship part, which is in the middle of the chapter, which talks about sacred sexuality and certain exercises that both men and women can do. So it's not just sexuality, but what they can do to increase the magnetism of their body. Maybe we can have another whole conversation on that, but it's amazing what we can do to increase the magnetism so the two magnets can join and that spirit baby can come through. And also work through the last part of the book is where some people who have had some upbringings or relationship grievances where they feel like it's the emotional part that might be stopping them from pregnancy. So past trauma, I actually have a whole section on the book about how we can help people through that as well.
I really want to read your book. Yeah.
I'll send you a copy.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. The only thing left is your last words. Give me one sentence of hope to women who are struggling, to couples, I'm saying,
Mm,
for pregnancy.
And I'll lean in for this one because it comes from my heart. Darling heart, if you are listening or watching this, trust your body. You birthed yourself into this world, so you already know what it takes to create new life because you are here listening to this conversation. And so that's the same mystery and magic that we tap into to rebirth yourself. So thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. I really wish to have you in more shows or summits. So happy to have you here. Thank you so much.
I am too. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
please subscribe to Panta Calhor Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching.